Hey, hi everybody. So my name is Kelly Heath. I'm the Director of Study Abroad here in the Office of Study Abroad at Webster University. So this next section is going to be focused on some of our exchange programs that we have in different countries. So primarily Europe, one program in Mexico that offer really great opportunities for language study. So if you're really looking for a program where you can go and, focus your attention on language immersion, learning as much language as you can within the span of a semester or a summer session, these programs are really a fantastic opportunity. So, I wanted to mention, I don't know if you guys heard, we are recording the sessions today. So what I'm going to do is kind of give you guys an overview of the session or of the topic. Feel free to chat any questions that you have at me throughout the session. But I'm going to stop recording at the very end, just so that way we can have kind of more of a conversation. And if you want to ask any questions and go on video, you won't feel like you're getting recorded. I know that's not everyone's favorite thing. So yeah, it looks like we have a small group though, so that's fantastic. So we can probably be a little bit more interactive, which is fantastic. So I do encourage you to put anything in the chat that you have questions on throughout the way here. I will say, so this is our first virtual Study Abroad Fair. I see some names on the list here. It looks like you guys have been at other sessions today, which is fantastic. We are, of course, as you guys know, in the middle of a international pandemic. So we are still encouraging students to, look into study abroad options, go ahead and plan things out, because we're hoping, obviously we can't control what goes on with COVID, but we're hoping to be able to send students abroad again at some point in the next year. So of course we won't do that until we feel like there's, the health and safety guidelines are there and we can send students abroad safely. But I do want to kind of just acknowledge the fact that we are in a pandemic, but that doesn't mean that we can't plan our study abroad experience. So thanks for taking the time out of your schedules to join us today. So I have my first slide here. Oops. Is just on the structure of our Webster language exchange program. So if anybody was in the last session, I will say that we do have some programs in Japan that do offer Japanese language studies in combination with courses in English. What's really unique about the programs I'm going to talk about today is that they are full immersion. So you're going to go to these programs and you're going to take all of your coursework in the local language. They really don't offer that many options for courses in English. We are trying to open up maybe a few courses in English where we can in various disciplines outside language, but it is pretty limited in that regard. So these really are intended for somebody who has already been studying a language and really wants to continue that study and accelerate that study. So I know me, myself, I studied abroad in Spain when I was in college, and that was my goal too. I just wanted to try to become fluent and try to spend as much time as I could, speaking the language day in and day out, and hopefully getting to the point of dreaming in that language at a certain point, which actually did happen, which was really cool. So you can see our locations. So we have Oviedo, Spain, which is in the north of Spain, a really beautiful historic city, about 20 miles away from the coast, from the northern coast. So really beautiful, fantastic location off the beaten path. So it's really good for language study because you're not going to find that many tourists or that many English speakers in Oviedo. So that's a really great location. We also have Guadalajara, Mexico. So that's one of our only programs that we have in Latin America, but the students who, we're really happy to have something in Mexico, our neighbor to the south. The students who go on that program really do love it. It's very, very well reviewed, culturally rich city for sure. And then we also have, for anyone who's interested in studying French, we have a program in Brussels, Belgium. And I'll talk a little bit later on about the universities that we partner with and how the programs are kind of broken up. And then we also have Trier, Germany. So of course we have our Vienna campus. I don't know if anyone was in the session on Vienna earlier today, but of course you can take German language there. But then we also have Trier. So Trier is a beautiful, smaller city in southwestern Germany. Maybe not a city you've heard of before, but you know, really great again for language learning and for having that immersion experience. So those are the 4 locations I'm going to talk about today. So as I mentioned, just in terms of the structure, these are really language immersion focused. So that's something you definitely have to want when doing these programs. Sometimes the programs will ask that you have already studied the language. So I know there's one program that requires like 4 semesters of previous language study. So it is better if you've taken the language at least through the intermediate level and then go with these programs, because you're going to feel more prepared to handle the everyday challenges and to really be able to express yourself, at least kind of in a basic kind of way, which we feel like it may be a little overwhelming if you went on one of these programs if you hadn't been studying the language at all. Not that you couldn't do it, but it would definitely raise significant challenges. So we do have homestays in 2 of these locations. So in Mexico and Spain, if you go on their programs, homestays really are the primary and preferred housing arrangement, but it's really fantastic because it allows you to speak the language all throughout the day. So you wake up for breakfast, you speak with your host family, you have lunch with them, dinner with them, get to really experience what the local culture and the local lifestyle is like. So I'd say it's definitely a bonus. And it is pretty common in other countries, especially Mexico and Spain, for college age students, you know, to live with their families, and go to school locally. So it's actually very, very common. And a lot of families, you know, really enjoy hosting international students. It brings a lot to their family dynamic too. So all of these are larger. So these are larger universities that we partner with. And within the larger university, they have intensive language programs for foreign students. So if you are very advanced in the language or almost at that fluent level, there's a possibility you could go directly into courses offered in the regular departments within the larger university. But most of our students are kind of more at that intermediate to low advanced level. So it is usually recommended that they take courses in the intensive programs for international students. Those tend to work out really, really well. These are programs that are more for students who are looking for something where they can be a bit more independent. You're not going to be studying abroad with a large group of students from Webster. Usually, I would say no more than 3 or 4 students would be going abroad on any one of these programs at a given time. You may, if you do, you may be the only Webster student going during a particular term. That has some distinct advantages, I would say, because it enhances your immersion. It kind of forces you a little bit more outside of your bubble, and you know, helps you with your independence and with your self-efficacy and with your, you know, just ability to be confident and to handle new situations. So I think it can be maybe a little scary at the start, but there's a lot of gains, I think, that come from doing a program like these where you are more independent. But you will, of course, meet your host family. You will meet students at the school that you're attending. Other international students are looking to meet new people, of course, because they're in the same boat as you would be. So even though you're going by yourself, you meet people very, very quickly. These are all what we call reciprocal partnerships. So that means that these particular institutions, these universities, they send their students to, sorry, I'm just going to admit someone. They send their students to Webster, primarily to our St. Louis location, and then we send our students to them. So that's kind of neat because you have the possibility of meeting a student from, you know, Trier University before you go over yourself to Trier. And these programs are a little bit more limited. Like I know we've talked about even in the last session, some of our programs have, you know, fall, spring, and summer, kind of a variety of terms available. These programs are a little bit more limited because they follow the calendar of the country where they're located. So sometimes it might just be a spring semester that's available. Sometimes it might be, you know, spring and summer. So I'll kind of outline that program by program so you have a sense of what's available. But for example, like our program in Germany, their spring semester doesn't start until March, and then it goes through July. So you would have a much longer winter break than you're used to having. So those are also some things just to keep in mind as considerations. You do pay Webster tuition and host partner housing. So you're paying your same Webster tuition, all your state, federal, financial aid, institutional aid applies, but the housing costs are different. I know like our program in Mexico, for example, it's about $400 a month to live with a host family, and that includes partial meals. So it can be really economical, affordable to to go on these programs and to live in their housing. It may even be cheaper than what it costs to be on our campus here. In a lot of cases, it is cheaper. Great. So I will keep going unless you guys have any questions. Okay, so the first program that I'm going to talk about is the University of Oviedo. So it's in northern Spain and Asturias. It's the capital city there. As you can see from this picture, it's really a beautiful, beautiful location. So, kind of nestled in the foothills. You're in west Spain, so it's very green, very lush, a lot of farmland. You're in the Cantabrian Mountains. You're close to the ocean, like I mentioned before. The Bay of Biscay is right there, about 20 minutes away. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the scenery, it's pretty fantastic. It's very, very beautiful. Also, the Oviedo has a lot of, they call it one of Spain's treasure troves because it has quite a few of what are called UNESCO World Heritage Sites. So a lot of sites of international regard, with a very long history, beautiful architecture. So it really is a very picturesque city. They got a big Gothic cathedral. They have sort of a medieval city center. So it really is quite beautiful when you get there. The university, as many universities in Spain, has a very long tradition. So it's been around since the late 1500s. So you'll notice that when you look at the architecture of the buildings and, step on campus there. And as we've talked about before, you'll be, learning Spanish while speaking Spanish in the country. So that is how your learning gets accelerated, because unlike here, when you're in a language class, you study the language, and then when you leave, you switch back to English. So with these programs, it allows you that immersion where all day, every day, you could be, speaking in that local language. You don't have to switch. You just stay in that language, and that's the language of, that you are in the whole time that you're there, which is really a cool thing to experience. So just a little bit about the program. So it's Universidad de Oviedo. So the University of Oviedo, so there's 25,000 students. So it actually is a large university. So a lot of students from the region of Asturias will study there. So you'll have Spaniards from a lot of different towns, potentially from other regions of Spain also studying there. They've got 16 different schools. And again, it's 4 centuries old, so they have that long educational tradition there. So really, really a neat place. Casa de las Lenguas, or the House of Languages, is the program within the larger university for Spanish language study. So our students, when they go, they typically are in the Casa de las Lenguas, which is nice because, in a university of 25,000, it's kind of nice to have your smaller group, your smaller community, to connect with the other international students who are learning Spanish, and your teachers are going to be all, native Spanish speakers, primarily from Spain. So you'll really be able to learn the colloquial expressions, learn the accent, all of that kind of neat stuff that comes from getting to study the language over in Oviedo. They do have 5 levels of Spanish, so they have only from intermediate to advanced. So they don't cater to beginning students. It is, again, a special program for international students learning Spanish. All of the courses are taught in Spanish. And this just gives you an example of some of the courses that we have on offer. So Spanish language, so looking at oral, written, vocabulary, translation, courses on Spanish history, Spanish art, society and culture, cinema. So you get a little bit of the culture, a little bit of the history. But again, it is all kind of framed within forwarding and improving your language study. So you can go either for the spring semester or the summer, and you can take up to 6 credits in the summer, 13 credits during the semester. Usually what our students do is they earn a full semester worth of Spanish coursework. So that would be, 4 classes for a Spanish major or a Spanish minor. We have had students take GCP in the past as well. So if you need GCP, I know that a student took the Spanish arts for arts appreciation, so that's definitely possible. You do homestays. They have you within like short bus ride or walk of the campus. Your host family will pick you up when you get there from downtown Oviedo. So you'll email them before you arrive to kind of establish contact with them. And then they do weekend excursions to different parts of Asturias. So taking you to, hiking in the mountains, or taking you for a beach day, or taking you to see different sites around the city. And they do a lot of neat programs like mentoring, or what are called intercambios, where they match you up with the local students so you can help them practice their English, they can help you practice your Spanish. And they do have a lot of activities on campus, so different organizations, clubs, sporting events. Of course, you can get involved in anything that you would like to get involved in. And they'll give you an orientation when you get there, just to kind of give you an overview of what the possibilities are. Okay, great. So that was Spain. So we'll go ahead and talk about La Universidad Autónoma de Guadalajara, which is our exchange program in Mexico. So it is the oldest private university in all of Mexico. It was founded in 1935. We have a long-standing agreement between Webster, and we call it UAG for short. We've been working with them since like the late 90s. So, we're going on over 20 years of having a relationship, which is fantastic. We've run, exchange programs with them. We've run faculty-led programs. We've had our faculty go over and do, intensive language studies and cultural studies programs. So there's been a lot of different involvement between our 2 universities, which is nice to see. And so Guadalajara, Mexico, is where our program is located. So Guadalajara is in the state of Jalisco. So it's the 2nd largest city in the country of Mexico. So in the kind of city center area, it's about 1.5 million people, but then within the metro area, it's about 5 million. So it is quite a large city. Some of the things it's known for are mariachi music, tequila, charreria, which I just learned is like a Mexican style rodeo, kind of comes from that part of the country. So there's a lot to do and to see culturally. So it's a pretty exciting place to be. They've got a beautiful, colonial plaza. They've got some neat cathedrals, palaces. So it's very, very picturesque, a lot to do and a lot to see. And if you look at the map, you can see where Guadalajara is located on the map here. It's in the red state with the yellow dot there. So in terms of the university itself, we've got 16,000 students, about 37 undergraduate majors. They do pride themselves on having a lot of international students. So about 15% of their students are international students. And then you would be at their main campus in Ciudad Universitaria, which is like the university city. So that's kind of like their main campus, kind of like our Webster Groves campus with, Webster St. Louis. And again, a language program for international students. It's called the Spanish and Culture program. You do intensive Spanish. They've got a number of culture courses as well. If you test into the level 5 or higher, then you can take courses in their regular department. So if you are a psychology major and you have advanced Spanish, you're at advanced Spanish level and you want to take a psychology class, within the regular psychology department there, that is something you can do, but you would have to kind of prove that you had the necessary level, just because they don't want anyone to be overwhelmed by taking, a content course in the local language. So they do, but they do have a way for you to do it, which is great. Everything's taught in Spanish, and this just gives you a few examples of the types of courses that they have. So they have 10 levels of Spanish, which is great because they can help you to really get in the level. They'll test you, make sure you get into the level that you need, And then you'll be grouped with other students who have a similar level. So then they can really cater the learning to where you guys are and kind of review what you may already know and then take it kind of from there in terms of what you need help with. So the 10 levels is really fantastic to see. They do offer beginning. So if you were a beginning student and you wanted to go, you could. However, just be aware there could be some challenges if you haven't taken the language before. But if you were had taken only a 1000 level of Spanish, you could do this program. That would be fine. And they have courses on like Mexican folklore, Mexican history, literature. So there are some really neat culture classes too. You can go fall, spring, or summer. So they do have a wide variety of times of year that you can go. And again, homestays, they try to get the homestays within walking distance of the campus. So just to make it, as accessible as possible. And then they have a ton of different activities on campus. They have really beautiful sports facilities, a big swimming pool, soccer fields, baseball fields, all that kind of stuff. And then they have a really neat kind of like art or cultural activities program where you can do, dance, or you can do painting, or you can do, a range of different activities that you can sign up for. And that's also a cool way to, do something with Mexican students, because you're not necessarily in class with them, but you would, if you do the cultural activities, that would be a good way to get to know more Mexican students too. Okay, I'm going to keep going on. So we've got the Universidad Trier. So this is for, again, I mentioned this before, but Trier is a really lovely small city in southwest Germany. It's a very old city. They call it like the oldest city in Germany because it was started by the Celts, founded by the Celts in I think like 4 BC. And then the Romans came in, so it's considered like a very Roman city. A lot of the Roman architecture still remains. So as you can see, like it's got some beautiful architecture too. You can see in this picture, which is one of the main squares. So the university was open in 1473. It closed, but then it reopened. Yep, and again, founded by the Romans, and just a really great place for learning German. Also, Trier is close to Belgium, it's close to Luxembourg, it's close to France. So you have a lot of, neat international locations just right by you when you study. I think when students go to Trier, they actually fly into Luxembourg and then take the train from Luxembourg to Trier, because Trier is a smaller city, so it's a little bit harder to get to. It is in the Moselle wine region, so it's really beautiful. You'll see a lot of vineyards and things like that. You're right on the Moselle River. Trier has a population just over 100,000 people. So again, it is a small city. Some may consider it kind of a university town because you've got 15,000 college students who are studying there out of 100,000. So that's quite a big portion. But yeah, just a lovely, lovely area. It's in the Rhineland-Palatinate state of Germany. So let's see, what else can I tell you about it? But again, it has a lot of UNESCO World Heritage sites, some Roman monuments, the cathedral, St. Peter's, which is the name of their cathedral, just some really neat Roman ruins. If you like Roman history, it's a neat place for that also. So they do, within this university, it's the Department of German as a Foreign Language that most of our students would be enrolling in. You have to have 4 semesters of college level German. So you would need to have kind of through like an intermediate 2 type of level to be eligible. Everything's taught in German. They get quite a few international students from all over the world. They also have the Erasmus program. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, but brings in different students from other European countries. So things like, pronunciation training, oral communication, written communication, and some things related to German culture, German history, intercultural communication, which is always a good thing to take and to learn about when you're studying abroad. So you can do either a full year or a spring semester, but the way their fall semester is structured, it doesn't cater to going in the fall only, and they don't have a summer program. Most of the Webster students we've sent have gone during this spring, but again, the spring there, they actually call it summer, their summer term, which is kind of confusing, but you don't go till March. So you would have a longer winter break and then would go over for the start of their spring semester. So again, it's a different calendar, but it's kind of cool to have a chance to experience the different calendar as well. But yeah, you just definitely have to prepare yourself for that. And then actually this picture right here is one of their residence halls on campus. So they will set you up with a room on campus. The way the German university system does it is it's usually always single room. So you might be like in a suite, but you'll always have your own room. And then you'd have like a shared bathroom, shared kitchen, that kind of thing. I was looking at the price. I think it's about €350 a month for the residence hall there. So it's, you know, it's really affordable, which is nice. I think also because it's a smaller city, that helps with some of the affordability, the cost of living. And then the international office there does a lot of student life programming. So they'll do, you know, sporting events, they'll do different excursions to different parts of Germany. So there's a lot of fun stuff you can get involved in with it that the international office there will facilitate. They also too have a program, like if you want to do, it's like an extended orientation. So if you want to go a little bit early, I think it's like 2 or 3 weeks before the semester starts, you can go early, just get a jump start on your German, and then they kind of do like cultural preparation. So what you should know about, you know, etiquette in Germany, what should you know about differences in communication skills and, or, you know, forms of communication, stuff like that. So they also have that kind of as an add-on option if you want, and we highly encourage it. Okay, so the last program is the, I don't know French that well, so I won't butcher this. If anyone speaks French, I'm sure you could say it a lot better than I can, but we call it the Free University of Brussels. So of course, a way to advance your French speaking skills, although Belgium, this program is located in Brussels, and Belgium actually has 3 national languages, one of which is French. It's also German and Flemish, which is kind of like a dialect of Dutch. But you'll find that, you know, in Brussels, it is very much the French-speaking part of the country. Also because of the EU, the European Union kind of headquarters being there. English is pretty widely spoken too, but if you really want to have a French language immersion experience, you can very much do that within Brussels, and people really appreciate that you know the language and are speaking the language. Yeah, a fascinating history. It dates back to the 11th century. So some really beautiful architecture, as you can see from this picture. So it is known as the capital of the European Union, and it hosts a number of the principal EU institutions. So like the, kind of like the, let's see, the EU Commission, the EU Parliament, the NATO offices are in Brussels. So it's a pretty exciting place to be if you're in Europe, because there's a lot of business, a lot of governing that goes on there. You know, leaders from all of the different EU member states will come into Brussels for various meetings, or maybe they're based there. So it's a pretty exciting place to be, because that's where a lot of the you know, activity with regards to the EU is happening. So, and it is a pretty international city too. So about 27% of the population there is made up of foreigners. So you will get a very kind of international vibe when studying abroad if you do choose to go to Brussels. Of course, they're known for other things like their waffles, their chocolate, their Belgian beer, so things like that. And actually, Belgium used to be part of the Netherlands. It broke off and formed its own country in the early 1800s, about 1830. So it's interesting, you know, to see where it is. It's, you know, it's right underneath the Netherlands. It's right by France. It's right by Germany. So you kind of understand why it does have those 3 national languages, because of the influence of the neighboring countries and the history of the country. So the Free University is quite large, 24,000 students. They actually have 1,000 students though within the Department of Translation. And the Department of Translation is where our students go when studying French language at the Free University. So you kind of have like a smaller college or school feel within the larger university. It is a private research institution, 40 undergraduate programs. They have a lot of international students. So you can see, 32% international students. Again, it's a city of about 1.2 million. And just a little bit about the Free University of Brussels. Just it's based on the founding principle and philosophy of the idea of freedom of inquiry, and they want students to be involved and engaged and kind of in the decision making of the university, but also really engaged in their own education. So it is free in that sense and kind of has a liberal mentality and a student-centered mentality. So they do have a French for foreign students program, intensive French, and again, culture courses. So you'll notice a lot of these programs are kind of similar in how they're structured. Let's see what else. Some example of coursework is, you know, things on Belgian art, literature, government. If you're interested in teaching French as a foreign language, they have like a teaching course you can do where you do a research project. Of course, various levels of French language, including like the literature, the grammar, you know, speaking, listening comprehension, all those kinds of things. It is only available in the spring and for 13 credits. They don't offer on-campus housing, but they will help to find, they help students find an apartment. I know the last student we sent on this program, she had her apartment set up, you know, months before she got there. And so they do give you some resources, and of course our office can help you look at that, but then you would actually be paying on site and paying to a local landlord instead of paying through Webster. So that is something that's a little bit different about this program. And then again, they will, because it is a larger department of 1,000 students within the university, they do a lot of their own programming. They do a lot of different events and things to get to know the culture, get to know the city, and get to know the other students that you're studying with. So this right here is just a picture of the campus and then just a map of where Brussels is within Belgium. So I think that's pretty much it. So thank you guys for letting me kind of ramble on. I appreciate it.